Mutine, adjective. Used to describe an individual whose spirit is unyielding, unconstrained, one who navigates life on their own terms, effortlessly. They do not always show up on time, but when they arrive, you notice. An individual confident in their contradictions. They know the rules, but behave as if they do not exist. Mutine, the new fragrance by Miu Miu, defined by you.
Hello, and welcome to It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and each week I'm joined by a panel of guests to discuss all things fandom and pop culture, primarily from a female perspective. You'll find everything from fanfic, to cosplay, to Schitt's Creek, to Supernatural, and everything in between. So put on your favorite piece of fandom merch, set aside that fanfic that you're writing about your OTP, and sit back and enjoy this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and on this episode, we are continuing our look at grunge music with a discussion about the band Soundgarden. And joining me on this one is returning from our Teen and Sara episode back in June is one of the hosts of Talking Like a Teen podcast, Adrian. Hello, Adrian.
Hey, Erin. Glad to be here. Thank you for bringing me on. And also thank you, Ashley, for basically making sure that I was on one of the grunge episodes. Because, I was like, I think I might have missed my window, but I was like, I need to talk about Soundgarden and Nirvana at least. So thank you for penciling me in.
Well, thank you for being on. And I'm really happy to have you here. Seriously. So yeah, never, ever hesitate unless it's like a week before and we already have a full panel. As long as that spreadsheet doesn't say it's full, never hesitate to reach out and tell me you want to be on a panel.
Awesome.
And then also joining me is Sara. Hello, Sara.
Hello.
Happy to have you here. You are one of the ones that I can almost guarantee will be on a music episode. I'm trying to think if there will be times when that might not happen in a music month. I already know what we're going to be talking about next year. I'm not spoiling it for my panelists. So I can guarantee there will be at least one band on there that you're going to want to be on. Just going by your taste. And I don't know, maybe Adrian will too. We shall see. So, yeah.
All right.
But I'm not spoiling that yet for anybody.
Now I'm curious.
Right? Same.
You will find out next year. I know you have to wait for a while. But that's the teaser there.
Not as long as Stranger Things.
Wow. Wow.
Sorry, did I say that? Yeah.
Off the gate. Let's go. I love this.
Michael.
Hi, Michael.
I've decided because everybody listening, I have a stand thing of Michael Myers.
Yeah.
As listeners should know, I collect Michael Myers stuff. And for Halloween this year, I'm going to move him to stand in my window and so that he's looking out at everybody.
That is
and
fantastic.
It's upstairs. So then people will be, I'm hoping it scares a bunch of kids. I don't mean that in a mean way. I just mean I want kids to go, oh, it's Halloween.
Yeah.
And everybody deserves a good scare. I guess both of you haven't seen the original Halloween. I already know, Sara, you haven't.
I know. It's I figure with Halloween coming up, it's on my list.
So let's get into Soundgarden. I'm going to give you just a little bit of information about the band and, of course, trigger warnings, just like we had for Nirvana. Pretty much the same exact trigger warnings. So Soundgarden was an American rock band formed in Seattle, Washington in 1984. Holy moly. Sorry. Sometimes when I'm reading these dates, I'm like so old. By singer and drummer Chris Cornell, lead guitarist Kim Thale, and bassist Hiro Yamamoto. Cornell switched to rhythm guitar in 1984, replaced on drums initially by Scott Sundquist, and later by Matt Cameron in 1986. Yamamoto left in 1989 and was replaced initially by Jason Everman and shortly thereafter by Ben Shepherd. Soundgarden disbanded in 1997 and reformed in 2010. Following Cornell's death in 2017, Thale declared in October 2018 that Soundgarden had disbanded a second time. The surviving members of the band have continued to occasionally work together since then, including reuniting for a one-off concert in tribute to Cornell in January of 2019 and again in December of 2024 for a benefit concert in Seattle with Shayna Shepherd on vocals under the anagram Nude Dragons. Soundgarden was one of the pioneers of grunge music, and alongside the other big four of grunge were, of course, Nirvana that we covered last week, Alice in Chains, who we're covering next week, and then Pearl Jam is how we are rounding out the month. Soundgarden's third album, Bad Motorfinger, helped usher in the mainstream success of grunge, reached number 39 on Billboard 200, and has been certified double platinum by the Recording Industry of America. By 2019, Soundgarden had sold more than 14 million records in the United States and an estimated 30 million worldwide. VH1 ranked them at number 14 in their special 100 Greatest Artists of Hard Rock list. The band was selected for induction to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in this year, 2025. Trigger warnings for suicide, just like with Nirvana. And we are going to talk about Chris Cornell's tragic death later on, but I just want to give that trigger warning. And just like with Nirvana, please check the show notes for the suicide hotline and also the Trevor Project suicide hotline, since this country sucks lately and horrible things. So I want to make sure that not just the National Suicide Hotline, but there's also the Trevor Project suicide hotline in there as well. Okay, so what I first want to know, Adrian, is what song or album was it that turned you into a Soundgarden fan?
Like every other, elementary, because you said 84 before, and I'm like, God, that was the year I was born, and it's like, I feel old now. I was about 10 when, everybody else, watched the Black Hole Sun video way too late when I was supposed to be sleeping and sneaking up to watch TV. And, a lot of videos at that time, looking at you, Tool, scared the living daylights out of me.
As a Tool fan, I totally understand that. Adam Jones, what is your problem?
Yeah, right. 1,000,000%. And it was a lot of videos and a lot of the bands at that time. It's I don't know what I saw, but yet it's I need more of this. And it was just, I couldn't tell you what it was about that song because nothing about it resonated with me, at least on a personal level. All I just know is that song with those visuals were just forever burned into my brain. And then, of course, being in Northeast Jersey, your rock radio stations, it's, I'm pretty sure Soundgarden's playing right now while we're speaking. So a lot of those songs just, yep, we're constantly repeating in my ears. But yeah, Black Hole Sun, I think, was at least the first time I noticed they were a thing. I'm not sure if that was the first, but that song and that video were just everything to me, like I said, when I was a kid, and it's just the rest is history.
Yeah, it's the impact of, videos. Videos were still kind of such a new thing. I mean, they hadn't been around like a decade maybe at that time, a little bit over that. And they were a way, I think, a lot of young people discovered music. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that 1984 thing, I went and saw Breakfast Club today and celebrating its 40th anniversary, and
Yeah, I didn't like that at all, that it's, no.
Nope.
40 years old, no. Don't like that.
Yeah. So Sarah, how about for you?
For me, I actually remember reading about Soundgarden and those type of bands I'm going way back now, and I don't even know if it's still around. Thrasher magazine, which was a skater magazine, when skateboarding was very big, late 80s, early 90s, Tony Hawk, that era. And I remember reading about them then, but never really listened to them. And then I think the first song I heard was Jesus Christ Pose. And I'm sure it was on WSOU Seton Hall Radio.
Nice.
Yes. Adrian knows. which
Oh my
still
gosh,
to
such
this
good
day
times.
cracks me up that the Catholic University in New Jersey had a metal radio station. Like, you're playing Slayer. What? I don't understand what's going on with this, but it was a kick-ass station. That's probably the first time I heard them. And I know I've mentioned them on the podcast before. But what I found with grunge in general, it was very metal adjacent. It definitely took a lot of influence from metal, from punk. And at the time, so that would have been Bad Motorfinger, that album. At the time, this was 91, I think it came out. So I would have been 16-ish, 16, 17. So it really appealed to that angsty teenager part of me. And I was like totally into the grunge scene with the band shirts and, the flannel and the Doc Martens and, and I actually kind of still dress that way at 51 years old now. Look through my closet. It's like band t-shirt, band t-shirt, band t-shirt, band t-shirt, band t-shirt, band t-shirt, band t-shirt. So I really, as a metal fan, and still to this day, obviously, I really gravitated towards those bands and absolutely love Soundgarden. Even when they split up and Chris Cornell formed Audioslave with the other three members of Rage Against the Machine. Also really like them as well. But yeah, I would say Bad Motorfinger and specifically Jesus Christ Pose was what got me into Soundgarden at the time. And shout out to Seton Hall Pirate Radio.
And I love that Adrian knew what that was, because that actually made it better, because
so many hours, and especially at a time where like I had like a job just riding around like doing deliveries. That's what was on all day, and Sarah nailed it perfectly. Because it's like I'm not talking just like, I mean, they're maybe not playing black metal or doom metal, but you're getting like pretty close. Like I said, it's a Catholic station, but they would edit out any sort of like allusions to anything religious, which was wild because if you know anything about metal, it's all right there.
It's there.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And especially shout out to pirate radio and college radio and stuff. That's how a lot of bands got discovered.
Seton Hall's mascot is the Pirates. So it wasn't necessarily pirate radio. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm like, I was thinking pirate radio stations.
No,
which would make
it cooler, but no.
It would have been even cooler.
Sorry. Yeah, no, it's the Seton Hall Pirates. So yeah, that's why it's pirate radio.
Okay, thank you.
It would have been cooler the other way.
Duh. But I mean, pirate radio stations were inspired a lot by college radio stations, which were college radio stations have always kind of taken like risks on bands anyway. They're kind of known for that, even though, I mean, this sounds like it'd be even a bigger risk because it's a Catholic school. And so when you have that and then you're playing music that very clearly a lot of bands critique religion and critique organized religion. And some of these bands have been accused of being satanic and all that crap. And so to do that, and especially when you still had some of the satanic panic going on, is kind of revolutionary, really, when you think about it, because even if they were editing out some of the words, you still were doing that. And I don't know. I think that's pretty cool.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I obviously didn't listen to that station because I wasn't there. But it reminded me when you were saying that, I interviewed earlier this year Sue Carpenter, who ran one of the most well-known and successful pirate radio stations. And I interviewed her about her documentary, 40 Watts from Nowhere. So go listen to that, because I actually think it's very fitting with what we're talking about this month. And it was very interesting listening to that. And I know we talked a little bit about college radio in there too. Like I said, this was not my genre of choice at this age. I grew up with this. I had lots of friends who listened to grunge, and I appreciate grunge. And I will say, listening to it now as an adult, I have a deeper appreciation for it. Nirvana especially was the one I gained a deeper appreciation for. What I think is so incredible about grunge and what grunge did is, well, it was like which I like hair metal, so I like hair bands. Okay, I do. But this led to the death of that. Music is the way people explain it, and it really is true. Like I said, there was in the Nirvana episode, there is this documentary about hair bands and glam rock and all of that kind of stuff, and how there was one band who they were going on tour, getting ready to, and someone said, "You've got to listen to this Nirvana, album," or it was like a tape. And they listened to it and they said, "Oh my gosh, this is so good." And oh my gosh, we're screwed. We're done. We're over. And then literally like a week later, their ticket sales plummeted. It's incredible how fast that happened. And this was also a band that helped do that. And I do remember the video for Black Hole Sun. I think everybody growing up in my generation knows that video and remembers that. And everybody knows who Chris Cornell is, because Chris Cornell is considered by many people to be one of the best vocalists to ever have existed. And he does have a very, very, very powerful voice, where there are some people that they sing and you just can feel their voice and can feel the emotions and can feel the lyrics. And I think he's definitely one of them. So I don't really necessarily have an answer to this question, but I just really appreciate what grunge did and what grunge represented, because I'm a fan of punk. I was listening to a lot of like alternative, and I hung out with all the weirdos and freaks, and because those are the best people, so that's who I hung out with.
Yes, they are.
And all of us were listening to weirdo music, even if we weren't all listening to the same stuff. And I just appreciate that grunge kind of spoke to that disillusionment that so many people, so many young people had in that time, especially disillusionment with the generation before Gen X, and how a lot of that generation was raising us, and how that generation was supposed to change the world, and they dropped the ball and didn't. And that's what I think a lot of this music speaks to, is that. Okay, well, I am getting this question out earlier than usual to get it out of the way so people can either spend the rest of the episode mad at me or be relieved that it's done. But it is time for that dreaded question. So, I know, and it's okay if everybody repeats themselves, it's fine. Like if Sarah has the same, I have the same, it's fine. So, Adrian, what are 3 of your favorite songs? I know.
Okay. So, I know when we did the Teen and Sara one, I had a minor crash out. It was not your fault, though, because I realized I made a mistake, and I said a thing because I didn't want to, labor on it too much. So I just fired off one that was close, and it wasn't, and I figuratively cried. But so this time, I locked in early, and I got my picks in, but it's one of those, please don't hate me, because, because I actually ranked it, but my number 1 favorite Soundgarden song, and I feel like this album doesn't get enough love, but my favorite is Pretty Noose off of Down on the Upside, because it's 96 Soundgarden is just as good as late 80s, early 90s, and I will hear no slander on it, but it's such a perfect song. And Kim Tae-il, his guitar work on it is incredible. I love it so much, and I think it's one of my favorite solos. My second is My Wave off Super Unknown. Matt Cameron's drumming is a revelation, and I remember as a kid, obviously Soundgarden had broken up, but then when Cameron then joined Pearl Jam, that should have been an exciting moment for me, because it's oh hey, grunge uniting. But I think I got really sad because at that point I realized, well, Soundgarden is now they're done. So that was always a little heartbreaking, but he's so good on My Wave, and I think his drumming is perfect on that. And the third is probably the bleakest entry of mine. It's The Day I Tried to Live, which, without kind of getting a little too overly personal, that was one of those songs growing up that meant a lot to me. And, talking about disillusionment and things like that, as much as I love Nirvana for their pop sensibility, because I often say and annoy a lot of people when I say Nirvana is a pop band more than they are a grunge band, and that sub pop should have been a genre instead of grunge, because a lot of his stuff was very 60s, pop inspired. But, his, lyrics and things like that. I love that band, but I didn't gravitate to them as much as I did, Cornell and Soundgarden, because I think with Cornell and why he, resonated with me much, because a lot of his music was like, you don't notice just how how much, pain he's in until you a lot of it is buried under, like I said, a lot of fuzzy guitars, a lot of just like this very almost gospel like belting. So you don't really think of it the same way you do with maybe like a Pearl Jam or even Alice in Chains. So on a song like The Day I Tried to Live, where all that's bared open, it's like you're feeling everything, and it's heavy. But at the same time, it's like, goddamn, the song also rocks. So those are my 3.
That was great. And with your Nirvana thing, it's so interesting because I don't know if you've listened to our episode, but Carla recorded something because unfortunately she wasn't able to be on the recording she was supposed to. And she said about Nirvana that Nirvana, she likens them a lot to the Beatles, but says they're 100 times better. She's not a fan of the Beatles, but likens them to that. So I just think it's interesting that you said that because it reminds me of what Carla said, because that is 60s. Yeah. So yeah, interesting. No, thank you for your top 3 too. And for saying all that, because I do think, with the emotions and the lyrics, I think sometimes people can forget that when it's music when not everything's being slow and melodic. I think people forget that there's emotion in there too. So, yeah.
Right.
So, Sarah, what are your 3?
Yeah, no, I with what you just said, I agree with that, especially being a metal fan, because you don't necessarily get that slow melodic, and people just focus on the riffs and the drums and everything else, but that's a whole other conversation. So I agree. The Day I Tried to Live, like the first time I heard that, it was another one that was just like a punch to the gut, especially someone who who has survived a suicide attempt and who does struggle with suicide ideation. I mean, just I was looking up the lyrics because I'm like trying to remember and then I can't. So, I mean, just the opening lyric, I woke the same as any other day, except a voice in my head. It said, seize the day. The amount of just pain and anguish in that. And even the chorus, singing one more time around, I might do it. You could just hear the struggle there. And I think it was one that really, really resonated with me at the time. I don't know if I'm not doing this in order. I'm just
fine
doing 3. Jesus Christ Pose is still one of my favorite ones. And I think it's because it's the first one I heard by them. So that has, for no specific reason, that has remained a favorite. Number 3, I really like Spoon Man. I really do. I don't know if there's any, deeper meaning, but it's just a fun song. I'm sure there's some deeper meaning there that I just haven't figured out yet. But I've always liked that one. And the fact that in the video, the guy that it's kind of written about, he's in there playing the spoons and it totally rocks.
It's great.
It really does. It totally rocks. So yeah, I would say those are my top 3.
Also, can I real quick though, shout out to my sister if you're listening. I love you, but also when that song used to play, she used to actually go get spoons like from the kitchen and actually like try to play like the spoon solo.
Oh my God.
And it was like one of the greatest things ever. And I just always had that memory of her because I don't know if I should laugh when I hear Spoon Man, but I'm not laughing because it's a funny song. I'm laughing because I can't think of anything but other her than, basically playing the spoons while I'm doing like the Chris Cornell, like humming during that part. So I just wanted to just throw that to her and just show my appreciation and love. So
that's
apologies.
Awesome.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not that coordinated that I actually tried to play the spoons. No. But it was just really cool that they and I guess he was just a Seattle street artist or something. I'm trying to remember. I think we're going back,
accurate.
30 plus years or something at this point.
Don't tell me that.
God, I know. I'm sorry. But I think he was just like a Seattle street artist or something. And, they're like, hey, come and, do a song with us. But it ended up, it worked and it totally rocks. So, awesome.
I did choose 3, everybody. Okay.
Nice. Let's go. Oh, I'm so excited.
Mine's probably going to be like, oh gosh, of course, because because I did choose Black Hole Sun. Okay. I know it's like the go-to, most popular, but there's a reason.
But it's so good.
And like I mentioned last week on Nirvana, I have this habit sometimes with some music that, because I have written screenplays in the past, that if a song can make me see a trailer for a movie, like a movie idea, then that is a special song to me. And for the 3 that I picked, that would be the case. So it's like ones where I can listen to them and get an idea for a movie. And granted, this has been used in movies and movie trailers and television shows before. But that's kind of why I chose it. Plus, I think it's kind of one of the anthems of a couple generations, really. So, yeah. And then I picked Outshined. Because once again, that vision of trailers, but also this one, because this one does something a little bit different, I think musically, like the melody is a little bit different. And what I found interesting about Soundgarden listening to them is there's a lot of talk about depression, a lot of talk about that in the lyrics when you really, really listen to the lyrics. And what I find interesting is even when there is that pain, there's also something else that's, especially I think in this song, that's being done where some of the music almost has like a hopeful beat to it. I'm not saying hopeful like shiny, happy people. I'm saying that like, I think sometimes the angrier music is, or the harder it is, or the louder it is, or the more it feels, can actually get some of that stuff out, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I found the most interesting part about listening to all of these bands, but especially Soundgarden, I would say more than anyone else, is that harder edge, which in a way it kind of reminds me of, for me, that's what 9 Inch Nails is. So it's that kind of thing where it's like, 9 Inch Nails for me is that music that I listen to when I am just so fucking done or really depressed or really down and I need an outlet. And that's kind of what this reminds me of, what Soundgarden in general reminds me of. And then the last one I chose was Burden in My Head. So that's the final one for me.
I was gonna pick that and then I decided not to, and I'm still heartbroken, but it's so good. And I'm so glad again, anytime someone could, big up Down on the Upside, it's such an underrated Soundgarden album.
Well, then good. I did good.
Yes, you did.
Thank you both. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to talk about something that is, I know, really hard sometimes to answer this question, but we're going to talk about the lasting impact of Soundgarden on music, and then as much as my panelists feel comfortable sharing, on themselves. So we'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by White Claw Surge. Nice choice hitting up this podcast. No surprises. You're all about diving into tastes everyone in the room can enjoy. Just like White Claw Surge. It's for celebrating those moments when connections have been made and the night's just begun. With bold flavors and 8% alcohol by volume, unleash the night. Unleash White Claw Surge. Please drink responsibly. Hard seltzer with flavors. 8% alcohol by volume. White Claw Seltzer Works. Chicago, Illinois.
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Ebglyss. After an initial dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
Okay, so Adrian, for you, what do you think the lasting impact is of Soundgarden on both music and yourself, as much as you're comfortable saying?
Okay. It's hard to explain like what the lasting impact on a cultural level, I guess, because what I had sort of written down in like some loose notes was that of the big four, you mentioned Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Soundgarden. I'm almost worried that the Soundgarden of it all, I don't want to like get like hyperbolic and say it's underrated or it's a little obscure compared to maybe like a Pearl Jam or Nirvana. But I feel like for a certain group of people, like I know, Sarah mentioned Audioslave, which was maybe a band that I don't think I was as into, but appreciate that he was still performing. But in a way, I feel like that gets mentioned more sometimes, even from like than Soundgarden. But now we're in a case where like my stepkids are, in their teenage years, that's like, they like the songs because, as a matter of fact, we played Black Hole Sun on Fortnite. And that was a wild thing because, one, Matt Cameron's drums are very hard to do. But then it's like I'm relaying the story to them about when I used to listen to this when I was their age. And I've never felt so like old and I never felt so like weathered. And it must sound like Grandpa Simpson. Because I'm like, we used to listen to this on a cassette tape, which was the style at the time, like. And I'm just like, and they're very sweet because they're not like, shut up old man. Like they roast, but they're definitely not like those, stereotypical teenagers. But then realizing, hey, this song is now a very popular video game, and maybe the messaging doesn't necessarily carry over. But I'm like, we're still listening to Black Hole Sun, and it's still being brought up. And I was like, maybe that's the lasting legacy, that it's being rediscovered. And now that grunge aesthetic is cool again, like, I can't go anywhere without seeing like a Nirvana shirt. And I think that's kind of cool because obviously teenage angst is something that'll never go away. But for me, like personally, the lasting thing is just, when Sarah was explaining, the lyrics to The Day I Try to Live, I'm literally like fighting back like some tears here because, a lot of what she said mirrored a lot of my own experience. It's something that I've struggled with. And like I said, it meant a lot knowing that someone else also struggled with this. But then to me, it's like, this person's doing some great things. They're making all these great songs. And it's like, well, if they can kind of get through it, then I can. And, I guess we'll get into that a little bit. But, if nothing else, he was kind of a hero because, like I said, he was cool. Like he wasn't, and of course, dumb attractive. And, it's like, good God, this man is hot.
No argument there.
Right? And I'm just like, but you didn't feel like threatened by that because, he seemed very approachable. And, and later on when he was doing some of the solo stuff, which honestly, the solo Chris Cornell album, Euphoria Morning, is, again, highly underrated. And it was cool seeing him sort of expand his range and then doing a James Bond movie theme, later on when Casino Royale, which I thought was cool. And it was nice to see Cornell carry on and, sort of go into these different avenues that maybe grunge wouldn't have afforded him. And my heart breaks because like it would have been cooler to see just how much more, how much further he would have gone and, sort of ushering, his sound to like new generations. But yeah, like, I don't know, like of all the bands, I think his just meant the most to me because he was just fucking cool.
Yeah.
I love that though. All of that. Even with the feeling old, I understand. It's like you get to that point where you realize oh gosh, people think of me as old. Certain
Yeah.
people do. And I'm like, oh, wait, this is not okay. I'm still young and hip. Uh,
Damn it.
so, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, just a lasting impression. Well, just one thing, Adrian, have you heard his cover of Nothing Compares to You?
Yes. Holy crap.
Right?
Like, holy crap. Like, I didn't even
Right?
think people could sing like that. And don't get me wrong, every version of that song, like, you don't cover that song unless you could sing. There's a reason why I've
Right.
never touched it. Not even a
Oh, I
karaoke.
can't-
That's sacred.
Yeah,
But no, yeah, that's
that was just, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that song to begin with, but yeah, his cover was like, oh my God, chills. Absolutely. And that wasn't, I don't think that was too long before he passed. That
yeah.
I don't think it was, but yeah, I know we're going to get into that. But I mean, lasting impression on music. I mean, it's still, my kids are a little bit older. They're 20 and 22 now, but I can remember picking them up from school and there'd be, kids coming out of high school and they're wearing Nirvana shirts and they're wearing Pearl Jam shirts and they're wearing Soundgarden shirts. So their music is still very relevant and I think is still connecting with
Right.
kids today, teenagers, because it is that very angsty type of music, like punk, like metal. And it was one, I mean, I was never a huge Nirvana fan, but the Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam. Yeah. I mean, it's still, it was, like I said before, it was music that I connected with and spoke to me for that reason, because it was music that I could listen to. I'm like, wow, there are other people that are feeling the same way that I'm feeling and that are going through the same things that I'm going through. And that's what I liked about it, is that connection that I had, especially when I listen to music, the first thing that grabs me are the lyrics as opposed to the actual music. I mean, sometimes, yes, that does grab me, but I find myself, like, if I can connect lyrically with a piece of music, that is what draws me in. And that is what that's what happened with bands like with the grunge movement at that time. I mean, there were other ones that came out after them that were trying to sort of cash in and whatnot that just weren't necessarily as good. But that's the lasting impression that I have. Like, I can go back and listen to their music and I still have a lot of those same feelings as the first time I heard them. And, these are bands that are like, oh my God, almost 40 years old. No, I don't appreciate it. No, it's rude. It's rude. Absolutely
They're
rude.
played on classic rock stations now, so.
I know. I'm not.
No.
I don't like. Yeah. We were listening to, I think it was like Classic Rewind on Sirius XM, and they were playing Stone Temple Pilots. I'm like, God, no, why? That's not classic rock. Just stop. Just stop right now. And 9 Inch Nails. I'm like, no,
because like I always thought classic rock was like, maybe like the 60s into like maybe the early 80s at most, but like once you get to like the mid 80s, I don't know what you call it, but it's not classic
90s.
rock. Right.
No.
It's just the 90s. Because like, not to go on the thing, but like this is that same job I was talking about. So this is like 2010, 2011, listening to Q104, like the classic rock station, or the Jersey's like rock station. But then they're like, oh, we're doing classic rock. And they're playing like U2's Vertigo, which I think had come out like 2004, 2003. I'm like, there's no way that's classic. First of all, the song sucks. He can't count in Spanish. And also it's like, this isn't classic. Like,
I will always take U2 slander. I'm sorry, I cannot stand U2. So, except for like 2 songs. So I will always be here for U2 slander.
Yeah, I actually remember when Q1043 started, they were like the rock station. Like they were like one of the first ones besides WSOU that started playing like more modern rock, hard rock, metal, and they had no DJs for like the
Oh my
first
God.
or two. They just had like random people there. And the one I'm sorry to go off on this just because it's hilarious.
No, I need to hear this. This is great.
One of the first commercials was like, if we don't have it, tell us what you want to hear and we'll go down to the Wiz and get it. The Wiz.
Not the Wiz.
I apologize for having an East
No,
Coast
I
connection
love it
here.
because I love it. No, I really love
Right?
it. It's great.
Oh my
to
God.
see.
Or, Sam Goody. But yeah. And
If you said
now
coconuts, I would have like screamed.
Oh my God. I don't know if we had,
I'm sorry.
if we had them down by us. Not that I remember.
Okay.
Yeah, we had the, I remember the Wiz though.
No, the Wiz, yeah.
Yeah, but now it's all, classic rock. And I'm like, oh, my parents are listening to this now.
Yeah, it's like,
I'm
what?
not sure how I feel about that. And even like the New Jersey oldies station is now playing, like Metallica. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, the
what?
oldies station here is playing like stuff that I'm like, what? Why is this on Cool 105? That was the station that played like stuff from the 50s. That's not supposed to be played.
So like when I'm a grandfather, when I'm wearing like the house shoes, whatever, like when I'm like a pop, like officially, I'm going to be like, oh, telling my grandchildren about Wait and Bleed by Slipknot.
Let me tell you about our Lord and Savior, Corey Taylor.
Yeah. It's like back in my day, we used to push our fingers into our eyes.
Into our eyes. It slowly stops the ache.
And I'm sure those for the East Coast bonding for our East Coast listeners, I'm sure that's going to make them happy. So
we lost everybody else. I'm so sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize. I think it's great. I love it. And this was all like not even planned that it would be both of you on here. So I think it's great. Thank you both. The only thing, because there's nothing personal that I can add, but except for, to just say again, and I think this might be why, our most popular episodes in general, the majority of them are always music episodes. And when that first started happening on the podcast, it really kind of shocked me, to be honest. I didn't expect it because of what we kind of started out as, but it made me very happy because I think part of the reason that is that music is like, at least for most people, is a language that everyone can speak. And that's the power of it. And it is the most vulnerable art form out there, I think. It can change the world. It literally can change the world. It can start movements. It can help movements keep going. And it is so vulnerable. And it is something that you can hear just the beginning chorus of something, a first note of something, and instantly be transported and feel something. And so I think what's happening with younger generations discovering this music is it kind of reminds me of when we were growing up, at least for me, it was the 60s and 70s that were like that. We were rediscovering the 60s and 70s. And so I think that's what's happening is the 90s are becoming this rediscovered thing. I think the 80s to some extent, but I think it's more the 90s. And so you'll see it on like television programs, And I think that's what's going on here is you've got that generation discovering that music. And like we mentioned in the Nirvana episode, Ashley mentioned it, and not your Ashley, Adrian.
I was like, wait, she did? What?
I know. I'm like, I've got to make sure to, not confuse them in my head. Now that we have two Ashleys. Ashley mentioned how it would be so interesting for Kurt Cobain to see the fact that, the capitalism and the commerce that has come from this music now, and how in a lot of ways what grunge was speaking about is against that. But everything, as Ashley said, everything gets absorbed into capitalism eventually. Everything eventually becomes part of that machine. And so it is interesting to see that when you have so much of this was speaking out against that. But at the same time, they're also, this is their career. So they're going to want to make money.
Right.
So it's that dichotomy there of like the commerce and the art and can you separate them? And does commerce ever destroy that art, Because before grunge, when you did have hair bands and all of that, that was very shallow music. That was incredibly shallow.
Mhm.
Okay, I mean, look, I love Poison. I love Poison. They are not deep. They are not meaningful. You can scream every rose has its thorn, but that is not a deep and meaningful song. I'm sorry. It's just not. But they're fun. They're just meant to be fun. And there's
Right.
nothing wrong with
Yeah, they're
that.
fun.
Like I said, I love listening to it. But I think the best music is the music that is reactionary in a way and that makes a statement, and the music that is trying to make you feel something. And so many genres can do that. Yes, you're going to be yelling at me that, yes, hair bands can do that too, of course. But I'm just talking on this deeper level, speaking to a certain kind of rage almost. So, yeah, it's like rage rooms before rage rooms became a big thing in a way.
We had mosh pits.
Oh, yeah, mosh pits, which are still around. Those are still a thing.
Oh, trust me, I know.
I do not like mosh pits. I will say that right here. I avoided them at all costs every time I went to a concert because they scare me. I'm scared of getting hurt, to be honest. I know there's like a code, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. So,
Right.
And other things can happen.
Exactly.
Watch the documentary about Woodstock 99.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
That was Or Astro World.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Oh, my God.
That was also a lot.
That was
oof, cluster.
That was horrible. That was really horrible.
Yeah.
Very sad. Okay, we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we are going to talk about Chris Cornell's death. So we'll be right back.
So good, so good, so good.
New fall arrivals are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Get ready to save big with up to 60% off Vince, Kurt Geiger London, and more.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Because there's always something new.
Join the Nordy Club at Nordstrom Rack to unlock exclusive discounts on your favorite brands. Shop new arrivals first and more. Plus, get an extra 5% off every Rack purchase with a Nordstrom credit card. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
Okay, so I want to give a trigger warning again for suicide. And again, remind you that you can check the show notes if you need to reach out. If you don't want to hear this, because I'm going to briefly describe how he died. I'm not going to go into great detail, but I'm going to say how he died. So if that's at all triggering for you, if it's triggering for my panelists, feel free to take off your headphones and you can either stop the episode now or you can fast forward like 5-10 minutes or something like that. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware. I'm going to say this really quickly. So Cornell had struggled with depression for most of his life. And in the early hours of May 18th, 2017, he was found dead in his Detroit hotel room after performing at a Soundgarden concert an hour earlier at Fox Theater. His death was ruled a suicide by hanging. So, like I mentioned in the Nirvana episode, I think there's something different and a different kind of impact when somebody that we love and admire dies in a tragic way like this. And so I think there's a different kind of impact to it than, say, someone dying of natural causes kind of thing, or dying really late in their life. So, Adrian, how did Chris Cornell's death impact you in music? And once again, as much as you're comfortable sharing.
And thank you. And also, I just want to point out, thank you for your consideration regarding a lot of these topics, because, I think that's something that's just admirable. And I just want to point that out. That's really cool. It's hard to talk about this where it doesn't come off a little parasocial. And I know that's always something that's tough, that now in my old age, thinking about a lot of this stuff, because one, I don't necessarily want to ever want to, speak on someone's behalf and what they may have been thinking or feeling. So I'm only going to try to go from my end of things. Obviously, it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking, but also kind of damning for me specifically, because, and the reason why I said the parasocial thing earlier is, as someone, like I said, I considered him like a hero. Like, that was one of my favorite singers, one of my favorite bands. But then by the time we get to the late 90s, obviously then Rage Against the Machine break up and Soundgarden break up. And that's like, well, there goes two sides of my brain that are no longer doing what they're doing. So then when Audioslave happened, I remember being, of course, I'm entering my 20s and I'm being like very hypercritical of a lot of stuff. I remember early on being like, I don't like this. Like, I love Rage, I love Soundgarden. The two of them are kind of oil and water to me. And I think I took it really like hard. Like, I took it almost like personally. And in retrospect, that's a terrible way to take it. But I say all that to say is, I think then at that point, I'm not really thinking a lot about it. I just know I want a Soundgarden back. So then, you know, when King Animal came out, and I think that was 2012, and I think they even did a song for the Avengers movie that same year. I'm like, cool, maybe this isn't the Soundgarden I remember. Yeah, they did the ending credits song for the first Avengers movie, Live to Rise. And I don't know if that was like the first like reunion song, but it was like, at first I'm like, this song's not that great, but it's like, they're back, like they're here. And I remember that being really cool. Then, of course, the full length comes out. And I'm still kind of like wait and see and just kind of really starting to remember why I love this band. So when he passed, I remember, of course, being in shock, but then also not shocked, but then also sort of angry at myself because I spent so many years of like the Audioslave era, like years, and then that the solo album he had done, I think it was like Timbaland, which was a little more pop leaning, I guess, being very critical in how I thought those albums maybe weren't exactly the best use of his talent. But then if I really thought about it, I was like, well, we should be glad that he's here at all, even throughout all this stuff. And then when he was not here, realizing, well, now we don't have anything. There's no more Soundgarden, there's no more solo stuff. And obviously, like a lot of people, you know, I'm sure he had family, he had other friends, and now all we have now is this music. And a lot of it, I don't think I took as seriously because I'm still kind of being, again, very hypercritical. And, you know, you realize you don't know what somebody's going through. Even when you hear, you know, a lot of the songs like Soundgarden did, you still, that's only like a fraction of what someone could really be going through. And not realizing like any time that this person created and were doing anything and seeing them publicly, because I was fortunate enough to see them twice and actually seeing him on stage, like, and singing a lot of their early material, which is not the later stuff. And you can see in his voice, like his face, like he's really like struggling to hit some of these notes from like, you know, the Louder Than Love and Bad Motorfinger years, but he's putting everything into these performances and just not realizing that's kind of a miracle. Because if I knew not too long after those shows, because like that was what, 2011, I believe, when I saw them, like not too long after that, he's gone. And it's like, I really wish I had appreciated those moments more. I wish I appreciated the music more. And I wish I wasn't so shitty, pardon my French, about something that's kind of inconsequential. But, you know, at the same time, realizing that so many people are still, you know, engaging with their music and finding new ways to sort of like bring it into relevance. It's like, that's great. But I just wish, like a lot of people who we lose in a similar way, I wish there was at least still here to even get to see all that and see all the love. And considering that, you know, his death sort of happens not too long around the same time as Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, it's like, we are not checking in enough, you know? And it was just really heartbreaking and just really eye-opening in a lot of ways, because we think of them as celebrities, but we don't think of them as sometimes real people who are dealing with real shit. So, you know, past me, I need to like kind of look at it being like, you know, do better, bro.
No, thank you so much for that. Seriously, thank you, because I'll share more of this one after you're done, Sarah. But yeah, thank you, Adrian. So, Sarah,
like you said, it was a shock, but at the same time, it wasn't, just because of what we knew of his struggles. But again, you don't know what people are going through, and here you have this person who's so incredibly talented, amazing voice, people look up to, who, despite having struggles with mental illness, seems like he's got a lot going for him. And he does. He has a lot going for him. So it's one of those things where you really don't know what people are struggling with. You don't know what people are going through. So it was devastating. And then, like Adrian said, 2 months later, we lost Chester from Linkin Park. And I remember they were showing like some family videos of him. This is Chester now, like the day before, and he's with his family and he's laughing, and he's like it looks like he's sitting at like the kitchen island. You don't know what people are going through. And just because you are a celebrity doesn't mean you are immune to these things, immune to mental illness, and immune to these types of struggles. So yeah, I think, like you said, I think we do, for the people that we know struggle, I think we need to check in more on them and see how they're doing. We always say to people, reach out for help if you need it. Go talk to someone. And they don't always realize how hard that is to do when you're in that state of mind. So as a society, yes, we need to do better. But yeah, I took his death pretty, I don't want to say pretty hard, but it hit me just because I had such a connection. I mean, I didn't listen to a lot of the stuff after Soundgarden split up, but just in my youth, I did connect with the music. So, I mean, I just had such a strong connection with the music that his death really hit me. It was tough. And, I say, a lot of people say, well, you don't know this person, and like, why are you taking this so hard? And well, no, but I think with music, it has, you make such a connection with it, and it has such an impact on your life, and has meant so much to you, and just so many different emotions, and it's helped you through difficult times, that it's almost like losing a piece of that comfort, I guess. Not comfort, but yeah, that's all I got.
I'm just going to add, and thank you, Sara, so much. I'm just going to add that, first of all, no one should feel guilty for mourning a celebrity. The parasocial relationships are very real, but also, like you were saying, Sara, with music and musicians, and music is such an intimate thing. And so if someone's music has meant a lot to you, having them die and know you're never going to hear them again, and especially in such a tragic way, and in such a way where it breaks you, I think, in a different way. It affects you in a different way because, it's like, I remember one of the other ones was Michael Hutchence from NXS, and like deaths like that, where it's like you don't expect it, and yet if you look back, maybe you see things, or you hear things differently, you feel things differently. And Adrian, I want to speak a little bit to what you were saying earlier about that feeling kind of bad about the way you first reacted. And I want to say, I think, honestly, it's understandable. It's not, everyone's going to react to these things differently. And the thing is that you also learned more, grew more, and that opinion and your feelings on it evolved. But I think that's a very natural reaction, frankly.
Right.
Death, and especially death like this, can have a very different impact on you than someone at 99 passing away in their sleep. It's very different, and it's complicated, and there's a lot of complex feelings around it. And I know, for people that are feeling that way, or that have ever felt that way, which of course I'm one of them too, but I think for anybody feeling that way or going through that stuff, when you have a death like this, there can also be the other side where it's like, oh my gosh, if they can't make it through this life, how do I make it through this life? And so it can be even triggering in that respect as well. And which, I'm not saying this at all as a way to be like, oh, let's all give up. I don't mean that. I just mean I think that can be the other flip side of the impact. And another thing with when you have celebrities pass and when you have people that mean a lot to you pass, like Tiff said in our episode we did earlier this year where we talked about celebrity deaths that hit us the hardest, there's a different grieving process here. We don't personally know them, so we can't go to like their family or to their friends and grieve with them. We can't go to like their memorial. There might be fan set up memorials, but and there's like with them, they had like, the tribute concerts, but at the same time, there's still that separation there. So the grief process when you're grieving a celebrity, which again, we all acknowledge is not the same as people who knew them and people who truly knew them, and loved them and their family and everything like that and friends. But there's kind of a loneliness to that grieving process because number one, you'll have people being idiots and saying, why do you care? And then number two, you can't like sit there and have like a personal like memory as far as like, we sat down and did this together. So it's a different kind of process. And Tiff explained it so well on our episode, why it impacts us differently, because there is that loneliness to it of we can't grieve them the way we would a person we personally knew. But it feels like we knew them because we knew this side. We knew their art that they shared with us, that they were so gracious to share with us, their art that might have saved us, their art that impacted us in some way. So it can be a very lonely process grieving a celebrity. And that parasocial thing always comes into play, of course. So, yeah. But I want to just thank both of you so much for sharing. And I really, really, really appreciate it. And reminder to check the show notes if you need help. There's no shame in reaching out for help. So please don't feel, we've been there. I've been there. I've been very open talking about that. So, do not be afraid to do that. Okay. But we are going to end with something fun. That is if my panelists played. So it is time to play 6 Degrees of Finwit Rock. Now there is a movie that you can use very quickly actually in this because somebody was in this movie. And I don't know if this is what my panelists use if they played. First, Adrian and Sara, did you play? Sara did.
I did not, only because I'm bad at this, because I was trying to do it without like looking at any sort of hints or anything. And I'm like, Ashley, when we did a Teen and Sara episode, she was so much better at it. So I'm like, Ashley's not here. So as opposed to embarrassing myself any further, I will pass the baton over to Sara. Please take it away.
So Sara, did you play?
I did, but I did have to use the Oracle of Bacon because I knew what movie to use to connect it. And I'm actually very surprised we haven't covered this movie.
It's been in polls before, but it's never won.
It's probably the one I'm thinking of too. And this is going to be heartbreaking.
So Chris Cornell was in Singles with Paul Giamatti, who was, I don't remember being in Singles.
I know.
What? Apparently Bill Pullman was in it too. I'm like, I don't remember him either. He was in A Mouthful of Air with Finwit Rock.
Very good. And that's one of my favorite Finwit Rock movies. And since we have been talking about suicide, I do highly recommend that movie, but I recommend it with the heaviest of trigger warnings possible on the suicide front and on postpartum depression as well. It's a fantastic film, but it's very triggering. And I want people to be aware of that because, it's a very, very triggering movie. But Amanda Seyfried is absolutely fantastic. It's one of the most accurate depictions I've ever seen of someone being suicidal and suicidal ideation. I don't know. I don't have experience with postpartum depression, but it was accurate in that realm. So yeah.
That is why I have not watched it.
Yeah, it's very, very, very triggering. I can spoil why it's even more triggering for you at some point if you want me to, but yeah.
I will watch it eventually, but I just have to be in the right state of mind.
Yeah, it really had a profound impact on me. I haven't been able to watch it since the first time, so yeah. But once again, Chris Cornell was in Singles. And that was someone, because I kind of was searching for different ways to do it, because I also had the Paul Giamatti one, but I liked this one because we used something we never have used before. Also in singles was Jim True Frost. You know, Jim True Frost. I'm sure someday we'll be covering him on the podcast. Just kidding. And Jim True Frost, I just like saying his name, was also in Drone, which we've never used this before, with Mr. Finn Whitrock. So There you go. And yes, we have had in our poll before singles to cover, because we will eventually talk about it during April sometime, because April is when we talk about Gen X primarily, but Gen X and millennial films. It's been in polls before and it hasn't won. So that's solely why we haven't covered it yet. It will get done. It will happen though. It will. It's on the list there. It just hasn't happened yet, but it will happen. Who knows? Maybe it'll happen next year. I don't know.
Although I'm sure we're going to be using singles for the next 2 Grunge episodes as well.
Oh yeah, because singles can definitely be used. But there is something else that could be used for a lot of these you could use just where the music was in too.
Oh, true.
True. Which I was being lazy and I didn't. I just used singles. But I know you can do that. Like, of course, spoiler for Sarah, when you're on there, another movie you could use for Pearl Jam, and I don't know where the connection would go, but, well, yeah, I think I do, is you could use Into the Wild, the movie Into the Wild, because Eddie Vedder did,
That's right.
We did the soundtrack for that, yep.
Which is a movie where it's one of those that Sean Penn is an asshole in real life, and Emile Hirsch is actually an asshole in real life. Alleged. Although Emile Hirsch did plead guilty to what he did.
Oh.
Yeah, he did, because that happened in Sundance, and he attempted to, strangle a person.
That's right. I didn't realize that was Sundance. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, which broke my heart into a million pieces, because I think he is a fantastic actor. And, but anyway, but Into the Wild actually means a lot to me personally. I cried for hours after the first time watching that movie. It was a very emotional, cathartic experience for me. And I hate that it's 2 people that are awful people. So,
yeah,
it's one of those. And I haven't watched it since the Emile Hirsch stuff. Anyway, sorry, we'll stop talking about that. So thank you, Adrian and Sara, for joining me for this episode. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you both sharing so much. I thought that was a really good conversation, so I hope you both enjoyed it as well. And I love the little connection you both have. I think that's amazing.
It's a Jersey thing.
Yep.
So we're going to go ahead and close out. And Adrian, tell everybody about Talking Like a Teen podcast.
All right. Talking Like a Teen podcast is a pop culture, I guess, comedy, but, sometimes we talk about non-comedic things. I co-host that with my best friend, Ashley. And since 2019, we basically talk about pop culture in our formative years, but all through our mutual love of Teen and Sara. And it's a lot of fun. It's irreverent. It's goofy. But at the same time, it's a celebration of the things that we love, but also just each other in general. And it's one of my favorite things to do. So actually, the best place you can go to get all that is tlatpodcast.com. You can find our past episodes. We link to our Spotify playlist there. Obviously, our socials are TLAT Podcast on both Blue Sky and Instagram. If you're on Blue Sky, you're talking to me. If you're on Instagram, you're more likely talking to Ashley, except for when we overlap. But more often than not, basically, you'll know it's me when it's something very again, metal based, or something that's definitely a heavier song. Because it's all right, Ashley's not doing that. So if we're talking anything heavier, chances are I hijacked the page, but lovingly so. But it's a lot of fun, and yeah, check it out. Hit us up on social media, and we always love talking music and movies and stuff. So please, hopefully you enjoy.
Yes, definitely check it out. Thank you so much. And I'm hoping Adrian will be back again sometime. Ashley, your co-host, will be back in December when we talk about VH1 of Love shows, a decidedly lighter topic than today.
So much later.
I cannot wait for this.
And Sara,
you can find me on Instagram at NateCamMom. That's NateCammom. Also on TikTok, sharing all things ghost related, the band and the orbs that are living in my basement, as well as my sourdough creations and Halloween decor. And that would be at Sarah A. Barnick, SaraABarnaik.
Awesome. Thank you. And spooky season is coming up. Actually, it's here. I'm always celebrating it. But anyway, it'll be a better time for Fergie with podcast preparation because I will soon be all about the horror. Not that I am not already all about the horror, but it'll be even deeper. So you can follow Fergie the dog, who loves that, loves Abbott Elementary, and loves true crime. And you can follow her on TikTok at Schroeder and Fergs. That's SCHROEDERANDFERGS. It's long, but it's worth it. To find all our past episodes, and we're coming up on 600 episodes in October.
What?
Congrats.
Thank you. I'm going to cry. It's so hard to believe, but you can find that back catalog. I'm not saying you should listen to our first year or our first month at all. Because
it's come a long way since then.
I have been toying with the idea of eventually at one point redoing some of those, like saying, let's revisit Star Wars, but I don't know when that'll happen. So
I'll be there for that one.
I'm toying with that idea.
I was going to say, all right, Sarah and I, we're there for that. So get ready for more sci-fi.
I'm there for Star Wars. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're there.
But anyway, that is at it'safandomthingpod.com. And you can find links to our socials. And also, if you want to support the show even more and get even more content, get these episodes a day early and you get them ad-free. So, down with capitalism. You can become a Patreon supporter for as little as $3 a month. And you get, on top of, the great content you already get, you get bonus episodes. And you also occasionally can win prizes. Like for our upcoming horror trivia event, we have people that are playing. You don't have to play. You get to choose who you think will win. And we're going to add a little twist to that so that we don't have a huge tie, like a 4-way tie. But you choose the player that you think will win. You might say, how many points you'll think they'll win by. And then you get their points for that night. So you don't even have to know, some of the categories we're having, some of the themes we're having. Queer horror is how we're kicking it off. And then we are doing terror on the small screen. So, of course, that's horror television related. And you'll probably see some American Horror Story questions. So going back to Finn Whitrock. And then we're also going to be doing the rules of surviving a horror movie. And so basically it's just, the rules and people that break those rules. And then lastly, decades of horror. So we'll have categories for 70s, 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. So it'll be a ton of fun. It'll all be on our YouTube channel, those game nights. So even if you're not a Patreon supporter and you want to watch, it's so much fun. People dress up. I ask them to dress up. So stay tuned for more information on that. And so if you do want to become a Patreon supporter, go to the link on our website. Once again, that's it'safandomthingpod.com on the Support Us tab there. And you can find that there. You can also find links to our Redbubble store. And you can find links to our Buy Me a Coffee. And then for the Emmys, which are this Sunday when you're listening to this, if you listen to Soundgarden and you're also a fan of the Emmys, which could be very possible, I will be doing live stream reactions to the Emmys after the Emmys air. This is the first time we've done this. We cover the Oscars, of course, because I'm a huge Oscars geek, but we haven't done anything with the Emmys. So I decided we'd do that this year. You voted that you wanted it. So I'll be doing that on our YouTube channel. And at some point, and I just realized through the platform we use that I can use this platform to stream onto TikTok. And that makes me feel a lot less intimidated about doing it. I'm going to be doing a live stream just giving some of my predictions for what I think will happen and what I want to happen at the Emmys. So yeah. And next week, Sarah will be returning along with Carla to talk about Alice in Chains. So until next time, remember, it's a fandom thing. Black Lives Matter, stop Asian hate, and free Palestine.
Doug.
Limu and I always tell you to customize your car insurance and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. But now, we want you to feel it. Cue the emu music, Limu.
Save yourself money today. Increase your wealth. Customize and save, we say.
That may have been too much feeling.
Only pay for what you need at LibertyMutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Savings vary. Underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Excludes Massachusetts.